in the can of Campbell's soup, there's about 2.6 cents, 2.6 pennies worth of steel. So if that goes up by 25%, that's about 0.6 of 1 cent on the price of a can of Campbell's soup. So who in the world is going to be too bothered by 0.6 of a cent?
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone? The Great Depression, passed the, anyone? The tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which, anyone raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today, we have a similar debate over this.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. This is the online, on-demand, predominantly fastener-related podcast where each and every episode we traverse the world of the industrial fastener business. So, if that's your cup of tea, then you've clicked into the right show, and we're glad to have you with us. Hi everyone, Eric Dudas here, and I'm joined as always by the co-host of Fully Threaded. He's Brian Musker. Hey Brian, you got those bags packed for Costa Rica?
No, I actually haven't even started, but I will before tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock, okay?
You're a last-minute prepper for that sort of thing, huh?
Right. Oh, I was going to say, you don't actually have to be right into fastener-related radio to be listening to this podcast, because you might, even if it's not your thing, you should listen, because you might actually learn something.
Well, it's definitely a good way of thinking about it, I think. Not sure how many non-fastener people. Come to think of it, I mean, there are a few. I mean, my mom, for one, she's
Right.
not really in the industry. No, we've got a couple of people, outliers, who listen, so everyone's welcome on this podcast. And if you're in the fastener industry or otherwise, there's something for everyone, right? That's your message.
Right. Now, we do regard your mother as being in the industry, incidentally, because she has been to the Fastener Show in Las Vegas, and she has wandered around the booths, and she has sat in our booth.
Well, it's a stretch, but we'll go with it. Anyway, this is the podcast you should be listening to if you're in the industry, and I agree, you'll learn something, especially on this episode 126 of the podcast. This time we're publishing on March 15th, 2018. We've got a super jammed episode this time, Bri. It's actually a double feature episode.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes, two big feature segments. Our first one today is another glimpse inside the mind of Charlie Kerr, he of Kerr Lakeside. This time, Charlie will be sharing his thoughts on the recently announced steel tariffs that everyone's talking about.
Well, he should know since he uses it.
Kerr Lakeside does use a ton of steel, actually many tons. Our second feature segment today is a conversation with GL Huyett CEO Tim O'Keefe. If you're listening to the podcast in a shed by any chance, or if your business began in any other equally humble type of edifice, you'll enjoy this conversation immensely.
Yeah, or you could be looking out on wheat fields. Okay?
That's true. That'll become clearer to you after the segment, everyone. Bob GQ Baer joins Mike McNulty on the Fastener News Report today. They'll be mulling over the Fastener Distributor Index numbers. Also, Mack Brooks exhibit manager Jessica Boweak joins us again. She's got the latest update on Fastener Fair USA, which is just around the corner.
Good.
And for all you torque wrench enthusiasts out there, Carmen Vertullo presents his next installment on the subject of torque wrenches during the Fastener Training Minute. And it's all coming your way straight ahead.
I'm going to know everything about torque wrenches now. I actually feel comfortable using one after Carmen's told me all the things about it. I used to be terrified of them in my previous life.
I think we've gotten more fan mail from the Carmen Vertullo torque wrench series than we've ever had on the podcast yet. So it's getting a pretty warm reception. And speaking of warm receptions, please, everyone, give one of those to each and every one of our sponsors. Bri, who might they be?
Wow, yes. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stellfast and the Lindstrom family of companies, including Titan Fasteners. Stellfast, for service you deserve and people you trust. And the Lindstrom family of companies, Lindstrom, by any measure. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are Buckeye Fasteners, InSequel Software, the Worth Group of Companies, ND Industries, Mack Brooks, Fastener Fair USA, Fastenal, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. Thank you to all of our sponsors. We love you all, and make sure that if you're listening to Fully Threaded that you buy from any of those people in preference, okay? Because they're helping to provide what you're listening to.
Our sponsors bring you Fully Threaded Radio, folks. Get with us anytime. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com, or communicate with us on Twitter where the handle's Fully Threaded. So, Bri, we mentioned at the top of the podcast a moment ago that you're heading out to Costa Rica. That, of course, is for the NFDA event happening there. That's going to be a big one. A lot of heavy hitters there.
Actually, I think it's going to be, well, the NFDA organises a pretty good sort of a show, and they bring in good speakers, and I'm not really looking forward to catching up with some of the people that I may not know too well. I know them as members of FCH, but I don't really know the people involved quite as well as you do, so I think it's going to be sort of fun.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why we attend these things. And since we're going to head straight into our discussion with Charlie Kerr after the break, let's take a moment to point out to everyone that there are a few other Fastener social events, because that season is right upon us here in the fastener industry.
Yeah.
So among those events that you should consider attending, one of them is the NCFA Distributor Social. That's happening May 17th in Independence, Ohio, right outside of Cleveland. This is going to be the 10th edition of the very popular Distributor Social, Bri.
And very good, I might say, because I've been to a few of them now. I make it a point to make sure I'm there.
You heading out this time?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Well, I knew you were coming out to Cleveland for Fastener Fair in April, but I guess you're going to be turning right around and coming back in May. That's great. And the other cool thing is we always seem to have, I hope I'm not jinxing it, but we always seem to have great weather for this event. So
yeah, that's true, actually.
Hope to see as many FTR listeners out here as possible in May for the Distributor Social.
Yep.
Right after that, on June 4th, it's the MWFA Tabletop Show. And that, of course, is followed the next day by what I think is the industry's largest golf event. That's happening in majestic Elk Grove Village, Illinois. Right near the airport, for those of you thinking of traveling in. We'll have someone from the Midwest Fastener Association on the next episode of the podcast, Bri, to give us a preview of this event. It's always a big one.
Good. Now, the golf part is not what I'm involved in, okay? The fastener bit is where I put my attention.
You're not really a golfer, Bri. I think that's well established on the podcast.
I know. Just in case people haven't, just dialed in, and just to make them sure, okay, make that so they know exactly where everything stands.
And we stand at the precipice of another jam-packed episode of Fastener Talk Radio, which we will get to right after this. We'll be back in just a moment to put a wrench to this one.
Okay. I can deal with it.
It's Fully Threaded Radio. Thanks for listening, everyone.
They're like more cowbell for the fastener industry. Brian and Eric. Fully Threaded Radio.
What makes Lindstrom a leading specialty fastener master distributor? For years, you've known Lindstrom as the premier name in metric fasteners, with an expanded product line that now includes the largest assortment of fasteners and components of any master distributor. Today, Lindstrom means much more than metric. At Lindstrom, we're focused on a single goal: to bring our distributors the perfect combination of convenience, flexibility, value, and choice, delivered by the most experienced sales team in the industry. For inch or metric fasteners, standard or special, in any finish, all packed to your requirements, turn to Lindstrom, where we have what you need and deliver it the way you want. To learn more about Lindstrom and our expanded brand of value-added products and services, visit LindstromFastener.com or call a sales representative at 1-800-572-5550. Lindstrom, by any measure.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
First, there was fire, and man said, "Fire, good." Then there was the wheel, and man said, "Wheel, good." With the invention of the wheel came the need for fasteners, and man loudly exclaimed, "Buckeye, good." Buckeye Fasteners, providing quality products since the dawn of man. The preceding message was brought to you by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, proud fastener show sponsors of Old Rusty Bolt Beer, official beer of the Traveling Salesman. Tell 'em Grog sent you. Ugh.
I know my customers' yearly usage, but I don't have the warehouse space to store it.
Solution Man can. Submit a blanket order, and I'll not only set up release dates, I'll offer you bulk pricing too. Visit the Solution Industries website for details at solutionInd.com.
You're my fastener superhero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
Hi, this is Mark Klossick with Vertex Distribution. I am here at the Fastener Show in Chicago, and I listen to Fully Threaded Radio.
Oh, hi. Brian Musker and Eric Dudas back with you. It's the Fully Threaded Radio podcast show. But you probably knew that.
Yeah, substantially fastener related.
Well, the headlines are full of discussion surrounding the Trump administration's move to place tariffs on imported steel and aluminum coming into the U.S., and the ensuing consternation, of course, on both sides of the issue have many in the fastener industry scratching their heads trying to make sense of it all. So we decided to dedicate the first main segment of the podcast to that subject, and to kick it around with a man who always has strong opinions on matters such as this. Charlie Kerr is president of Euclid, Ohio-based Kerr Lakeside. That company is a premier manufacturer of socket screw and precision cold-headed components. In other words, he uses lots of steel. Charlie Kerr, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. We probably use about 5 to 7 million pounds of steel a year, depending on our product mix and how busy we are.
That's a lot.
I kind of, quantify how much steel we use. And, at the end of our fiscal year, we run an Excel spreadsheet where the information is extracted out of our computer system. And our number one supplier and our number two supplier are always steel suppliers. Now, as a little tidbit, I know this is a little bit off the subject, but our health insurance provider comes in at number 3. So that's how expensive that's got. Anyhow, we spend a lot of money on steel.
Yeah, we're not surprised by that. And I think we set the record for diverting away from the main topic already. So congratulations again, Charlie.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're at liberty to discuss this or if you want to, but is there a split of domestic to imported steel?
Yes, I am at liberty to discuss it, and I'll tell you exactly. I'm going to get specific. Probably 98% of the steel that comes into our building is melted in one of two places, Cleveland, Ohio, or Saukville, Wisconsin, and that would be Charter. We do get a very small amount of small diameter SAFS wire. And, put this in perspective, the largest steel size we use, this is going into the machine, is 1 7/64. That's 4140. We go down to basically 125 wire and everything in between. But some of that real small diameter wire is melted in Canada. Now, everything that we get is DFARS compliant steel, but, sometimes when I'm buying that small diameter wire, less than 1,000 pounds of that will make 500,000 pieces. That's, it's small, obviously the material content of the parts is relatively minor. But if Charter disappeared from the face of the earth, we'd be in kind of a tight spot as far as figuring out where to get our steel at.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about impacts and how the tariffs could possibly impact your business and other fastener manufacturers and distributors. But before we get into that and discuss all the impacts, what exactly are we talking about, and what are the time frames involved with these tariffs, Charlie?
Well, okay, first of all, things are subject to change. But as it stands right now, I got correspondence via email from the Precision Machine Products Association, which we're a member of. And I'm going to read from it if you don't mind. It says, the announcement of tariffs on March 8th. The actual legal documents are still pending, and by March 18th, the government officials are supposed to disclose an exclusion process for companies and products. So basically, the 18th is, Sunday? I don't think the government works on Sunday, so probably a week from today we'll have a little clearer picture of what exactly is going to happen. I've talked to a number of people in the industry that are involved in supplying steel. And Eric, I know this sounds like I'm making light of the situation, but that's like asking people's opinion about their NCAA bracket. No one's got the same version of events. Yeah, there's a couple things everybody's pretty sure about. Steel from China is not going to be exempted. That's like picking the winner of the Virginia-Baltimore, Maryland game. But what I'm going is, as you get deeper into the tournament, and not that I'm comparing this to a tournament, but as we get deeper into this, if you're running a company like I am, and you need to make mission-critical decisions about, steel purchases, who to get it from, when they have it delivered, what kind of pricing structure there might be. The only way you're going to avoid taking some kind of a haircut is if you accurately pick the outcome of all 67 games.
Right. And there's all kinds of speculation going on with that right now. But before we get into that, again, let's back up and just say what we know right now as of today. So what you're saying is that the go-live date of these proposed tariffs would be March 18th. We haven't, on this podcast, said yet what those tariffs entail. What we've been reading all over the popular media is 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum from steel and aluminum imported into the country. Are there any fine points you can add to that?
Well, one thing I probably gave you a little bit of misleading information a minute ago. Assuming nothing changes from this time forward, the new tariffs, as announced, will take effect at 12:01 a.m. on March 23rd. So, like I said, I don't think anybody can tell you with absolute certainty. Like, for example, when this all started, a lot of people thought that steel from Canada and steel from Mexico would be exempted. And as it turns out, for the time being, it has been. But that doesn't mean it's going to stay like that forever. And like I said, there's a lot of moving parts on this.
Yeah.
And I think that, I'm kind of maybe not directly answering your question, but I'm going to go back to an appearance the Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross, made on some of the Sunday morning TV shows, where he held up a can of Campbell's soup in one hand and a 16-ounce can of Budweiser in the other. And he's basically saying the soup can's made out of steel, beer can's made out of aluminum, and raw material content of these two items is so insignificant to the consumer at retail, you're looking at probably less than a penny cost increase. Well, let me tell you something. I don't make soup cans. I make socket head calf screws. And if my raw material costs go up 15%, that basically guarantees, in the absence of me being able to recover that in the higher selling price, that our company will lose bucket loads of money. Now, are my steel prices going to go up? I don't know. I've talked to my suppliers, and and I don't think people are being evasive on purpose. I think they honestly don't know what to say.
Okay.
Sure. So I guess that answers one of my next questions, Charlie, and that is impacts that you're seeing right now. But before I ask that question to you again directly so you can answer it directly, how does this affect you if Canadian steel is expected to be exempted and that's what you're primarily dealing with?
Well, okay. First of all, we use a very small amount of Canadian steel. So that doesn't cause me to lose too much sleep. Let me tell you what I'm concerned about. And I'm using a term that no one else has used. When I say no one else, I mean I've made phone calls to a lot of people. Some of them are suppliers of steel. Some of them are not suppliers of mine, but they're suppliers to other people. And I've collected information. Not one of these people has used the term allocation. Okay, I want to make that very clear. So I'm using it, and I'm basically attributing it to my own thought process. Right now, if people who are using exclusively imported steel that's covered by these tariffs start to try to place business with domestic mills and they're successful doing it, that's going to make lead times go from, say, 6 to 8 weeks, which is typically what we get. Sometimes if you hit the rolling cycles at the right time, you can get steel in less than 5 weeks. But normally 6 to 8 weeks is the lead time we're looking at right now. I could see where if we had this conversation in June or July, we could be talking steel delivery 6 months out. And at that point, the steel mills are going to say, over this period of time, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, 5 years, whatever. You average this much tonnage in a 12-month period, that's how much we're going to let you buy. If you try to buy more than that, we're not going to take the order. Now, this has happened before. It's been a while. I'm guessing it's been 10 or 15 years. But it's not precedented for the domestic mills to get so booked up that they basically ration, go on a rationing program, which in the industry is called material allocation. And I'm worried about that.
Okay. I understand why you would be. Let me say this before we turn too many people off because of the uncertainty, and let's face it, we're some rank amateurs dealing with something that we don't know too much about. Bright & Best did make a public announcement about this. I think a lot of distributors, a lot of folks in the audience certainly do use Brighton as an authority. And this letter that they distributed, the letter they've distributed out to their customers, I'll just read a portion of it here, says, today President Trump signed into effect a new tariff rate of 25% for steel imports and 10% for aluminum imports. It goes on to say that, according to their trade lawyers, this does not affect finished fastener products.
It does not affect anything finished. Now, let me tell you what my interpretation of that was.
Go ahead.
I mean, first of all, I know a lot of people at Brighton. They're professional people. I have the highest regards for them. They're good competition, but they're an importer. And what I read, keep in mind, I'm not suggesting this was what the message was they wanted to communicate. But what Charlie Kerr read was, if you're a Kerr Lakeside customer or a customer of another domestic fastener supplier and they raise your prices, our door is wide open for your POs at the going rate. That's my takeaway from that announcement. And I felt, once again, why did they find it necessary to assure all their customers? I mean, this is known. Finished products are not covered by this. So someone at Brighton felt it was necessary to reinforce the notion that if you're buying imported finished screws, this is not going to affect you. And if you're buying domestic finished screws, it's probably going to, and we can be the solution to that problem if you need one.
Could be. I remember I had a brief chat with George Hunt at the deal in Chicago here, but I think the master distributors are already under a fair amount of pressure just from increasing prices of steel overseas to try and lower, keep their prices low in the face of rising cost of the imported goods. So I think they're already under a fair amount of pressure. So maybe it's trying to make sure that even though the pressure's high, it doesn't necessarily mean everything's going to keep going up sky high.
Well, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts on this. You've got the exchange rate of the dollar versus given foreign currencies. You've got the international scrap price, which affects scrap surcharges, and that's kind of a function of the exchange rate as well. So there's, in fact, one scenario that I imagine that you could have a tight supply of steel for a short period of time, and then things would normalize and prices would start to come down. And one of the things that made me think that, I don't know if you heard the news, Republic is relighting at least one furnace in Lorain, Ohio. And I've read, it's kind of frustrating. One news report said that they partnered with an iron ore company, and they're going to light up a blast furnace. Another news report that I heard on the radio said they were relighting an electric arc furnace up there. Now, if both reports are right, and they're relighting both furnaces, that's a lot of steel-making capacity that comes online, and it's significant. That mill at one time probably was the largest producer of molten steel in the country, if not the world.
So in a way, that's sort of positive, you would think.
Well, it is, but once again, you just don't start. It's not like turning your water faucet on and off.
Yeah, I know.
Seriously, that's, from the time the decision is made to refire those furnaces, you probably got to run a couple of heats that you have to remelt because it's just, it's kind of like, you got to perfect things. It's probably several months before any of that steel actually starts shipping off to the end users. We used to, I'm going back 20 years ago, every pound of steel that we brought into our factory came out of Lorain. BOF steel that's made in the blast furnace, for our type of heading process, gives us better tool life than an electric arc furnace. It just got to the point where BOF was so price disadvantaged versus electric arc steel, we quit using it. And then Republic had some problems, and they idled the facility. And then, make a long story short, we started buying more and more of our steel from Charter, and they're our primary steel supplier today.
So where did this? I don't know anything about Charter. So tell me, do they make the steel in America, or is it they import it?
Oh yeah, Charter. They've got a melt shop in Saukville, Wisconsin, and they have a melt shop in Cleveland, Ohio.
What does a melt shop mean?
Well, that means they take scrap, put it in an electric arc furnace, heat it up, and make molten steel that ends up into, Charter's focus is primary cold heading quality steel.
Okay.
There's a few other things they might dabble with, but most people that know of Charter, because they buy from Charter, are buying cold heading quality steel.
Okay.
Let's go back to that stunt that Secretary Ross pulled off with the Campbell soup can and the beer can. And anytime that politicians resort to cheap gimmicks like that, it always makes me kind of suspicious. And I'm guessing that you didn't really buy his main message either. I mean, if prices are going up of raw materials, then prices of finished goods are going to go up too. I mean, what was your takeaway from that, Charlie?
Well, I did what Mike Lance, our sales manager, calls the slow burn. It's like, I can't believe a man in a position of his, Secretary of Commerce is a very important position, that he would use a soup can and a beer can as a prop. And, I'm just saying it like it is. The man is either clueless about the real downstream implications that these tariffs pose, or he's deliberately misrepresenting the facts to sell this idea to the average American.
Secondary one,
have a view into the steel market that I do.
Yeah. It's easier to mislead people with little things like that. Okay.
Okay, so that leads to the question why. What are the tariffs intended to do? What is the public face of the intention behind this move?
That's a good question because, see, one of the things, Eric, you and I have had a lot of conversations, both on the record for the podcast and, off the record at, Fastener Association events. We've discussed items that you could call political. When Sherrod Brown has a letter printed in the newspaper, he's a liberal Democrat senator from Ohio, praising the President of the United States for taking this action, I get suspicious. I believe that this is more political, that, they talk about, first of all, Section 232 is part of a law that was passed in the early 1960s to basically protect certain domestic industries that had security and defense implications. Well, obviously, steel has security and defense implications.
Yeah.
I don't buy for 1 second that we can't produce enough steel in this country with existing melting capability to satisfy in the event of a war. I'm talking, Afghanistan's a war, Iraq was a war. I'm talking about when we're fighting the Chinese over in Asia and the Russians over in Europe and who knows, the Venezuelans in South America. We're basically all over the world. I believe we have enough, and I don't use much aluminum, so I can't comment so much on that, but I believe the production capability exists right now to satisfy every ounce of steel that the military could possibly need.
Including building warships?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, you're asking me a question that would take 20 minutes to answer.
A lot of steel goes into some of those things.
Well, see, okay, I'm no military expert, but I will tell you this. Tanks have a lot of steel in them. Ships have a lot of steel in them. Airplanes more aluminum and titanium. There's a few other things I can't think of. If the weapons that we currently have in our inventory right now are not adequate to fight and prevail in a war, it's going to be over with. If we started building tanks today, building ships today, they wouldn't be ready to enter service probably for 2 or 3 years.
Okay, so let's say you're right then, and let's say that security really isn't the motive. What do you say to those who say that this is a feigned move and it's really a bargaining chip for international trade negotiations that are to come? NAFTA's one, but obviously there are major negotiations that are pending, especially those that were put off by TPP. I mean, could that be really the motive here?
Well, okay. I'm going to share with you a little bit of backstory first. The Precision Machine Products Association has this communication vehicle available to its members called the listserv. And what that means is if you subscribe to a particular list, an email that one member sends, everybody on the list gets. And some of them, there's probably, well over 100 people that subscribe to the list. Well, on one of the lists, last week or the week before, there was a fairly detailed discussion. Now, keep in mind, most of the people are owners or executive managers of companies that make parts out of steel. The prevailing, I guess you could call it consensus, is this is probably Trump being Trump in his art of the deal mode, in that he's going to get everybody, all off balance. He really doesn't mean for this to be the final consequence of his, program, if you want to call it that. But he is going to use it to extract concessions on other trade matters. Now, if that's really what's going on, this could play out for a long time. But that would be consistent with the way he's done business before and after he was elected president.
I think a lot of people are looking down that road, too. It'd be really interesting. I mean, he's often, I don't know if you'd call it accused of playing four-dimensional chess, and of course other people think he's just a big buffoon, not capable of that. But regardless of how you come down on that, I agree with you. When a Bolshevik like Sherrod Brown has his hand out and he's sanctioning it, I'm totally suspicious. So I guess we're going to have to strap in and watch all this.
So it could be a pretty interesting ride.
One thing, if I could point out, and it's not my intent. If you work for a company that closes up, and I'm talking working, not as executive management, but, someone that's pulling levers and getting dirty and sweaty. It's not really your fault that that company wasn't competitive. But if you look at when Sherrod Brown talked about all these steel-making facilities in the Ohio River Valley that aren't there anymore, well, why is Nucor still there, and why is Charter still there?
Okay, is that rhetorical?
Time's up. They don't have collective bargaining agreements. And this is an important key. It's easy to bash unions. Most, if not all, mills that closed their doors because they couldn't compete had union contracts. Like Charter did a lot of, I can't speak for Nucor because we don't buy from them, but, Charter's spent a lot of money with innovative ways to make steel faster and better. They've added production capacity. A unionized mill couldn't do what they did unless the union agreed to it. It's like, wait a second, you want to build this casting facility and you're only going to need like 30% of the people to run it? That's not a good idea. At one time, and I'm probably talking 20, 25 years ago, it's amazing how things happen so quickly.
Yeah, it's frightening.
Nucor could make a ton of steel with about 25% of the people that U.S. Steel had at the Lorain mill. Now, I know you're comparing an electric furnace facility with a blast furnace, and you probably need a few more people to run a blast furnace. But when someone's figured out how to run a steel mill with that lean of a workforce, it's not foreign competition to put those mills out of business. It was failure to invest in automation, innovation, and basically, Lean 5S has been a thing for our industry for a long time. And it's like get more work done with fewer people. And the steel mills that went out of business either couldn't figure out how to do it or thought that didn't apply to them and didn't even try.
Right. Yeah. I think you're tugging at a string that unravels a major part of this question.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you went into a lot of these older steel mills, you'd see they would look like part of the Industrial Revolution 150 years ago. Hasn't really changed a lot.
Well, it's unfortunate because there were hardworking, honest, decent people that worked for those companies, and they were dedicated to doing a good job. And I've been in a number of steel mills, and trust me, you work in a steel mill in July and August, it's a very unpleasant place to be. But the people that own those companies or the people that manage those companies just didn't accept, the reality of the market, and it caught up with them.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's easy to blame, anything other than your own fault for not investing and, modernizing your whole operation.
Thanks for your perspectives on that, Charlie. I think you're a person whose commentary on that subject is something people will benefit from hearing. Getting back to the tariff then, let's wrap it up. What's your summary? There's a lot of uncertainty right now. When do you think we'll know something? And what's the takeaway as of early March 2018?
Well, let me, once again, I'm going to give you a little backstory here. I sat down in an Excel spreadsheet and did a little bit of math. What if? And if my steel landed cost, that's what it costs to come in the door, would it go up 15%? Like on a 3/8/16 by 1.5" socket hit calf screw, the raw material content of that screw goes from $36.42 a thousand up to $40.62 a thousand. We make $750,000 of those a year, so I just threw $3,150 out the door if I can't reflect that cost increase in my selling price. That's one of 950 different diameter and length combinations that we make here in Euclid. Now, one thing I did, I called my contact at Charter Steel, and it was a pretty one-way conversation. I did most of the talking, and I know that probably doesn't surprise you.
I'm very surprised. Okay.
But what I told my contact, and he was very attentive, I said, I have to be competitive. And I want to go back to that press release that Bright & Best put out, or whatever it was, the letter to their customers. If my steel costs go up, and I try raising my prices to recover that cost, Kerr Lakeside socket hit calf screws already cost more than Taiwanese socket hit calf screws. But if that gap widens up enough, made in USA, putting the flag on the box, we're here in Euclid, Ohio, that particular differentiating factor becomes less significant. And I told my contact at Charter, If my customers stop buying from me, I don't need to buy your steel. And his response was, Charter's aware of that. You're not the only person communicating this particular concern to us.
Yeah.
Now, I have learned over the years, Charter's the kind of company that does not give the BS line to their customers. They will tell their customers what they need to know, not what they want to hear. Now, having said that, even they're, not real sure how this is going to affect things. But he did indicate to me that management at Charter is not interested in taking care of new customers who have been buying imported steel at the expense of existing customers who've been loyal to Charter over the years. I don't think that would have been said if that's not their true position. And I believe them, and I'm moving forward acting as if that is, in fact, the way it's going to be. I might pay more for my steel, but I probably will still be able to get it without any significant disruptions. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay.
Well, we're going to leave it right there, Charlie, and I thank you so much for your perspectives once again. I hope you'll keep us advised as things unfold, because there's going to be developments as time goes by, so please feel free to chime in, be our correspondent on this, would you?
Well, I keep you in the loop on everything.
You do, and I appreciate it. Yeah. Hey, folks, you can learn more about Kerr Lakeside or get in touch with Charlie Kerr through his website. That's kerrlakeside.com. Before we close out the segment here, Charlie, also like to congratulate you. 2018 marks the 70th anniversary of Kerr Lakeside. Wow, that's a milestone.
That's terrific.
Well, it is. In fact, and this is why I think no matter what goes wrong with all this steel nonsense, we're going to figure out a way to get through it, because this is not the first time we've had a problem like this. But how many family and operated businesses are there that last 70 years with the primary family still involved? And just recently, my son Alex came to work at the company about 2.5 years ago. He's now the vice president and general manager. We're on our 4th generation of Kerr family members actively involved in management of the company at the executive level. That's rare for that to be able to happen over that long a period of time.
It's a great story. We're going to be covering it more. You have an event happening in June. We'll be out there for that, Charlie. And so, again, we'll talk more about that on the podcast. But thanks once again, Charlie Kerr. You've been very helpful in helping us understand a little bit more about the tariffs on steel and, well, the whole steel industry as a whole. So I don't know what we'd do without you, Charlie.
Right.
Nah, you'd find someone else to do it for you. Do it with or whatever. Listen, I thank you for letting me participate in the program. This is certainly a fluid situation.
Yeah.
And if you talk to someone in a similar situation that I'm in 2 weeks from now, the dynamics could be totally different then. I just hope that the people that buy steel from American mills to make an American product are not the ones that bear the brunt of this.
Good parting comment.
You got that right. Hey, folks, we'll be back in just a moment. It's Fully Threaded
Radio.
Online Fastener Talk Radio. Hey, at least it kills time on long road trips. Fully Threaded Radio.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
Harry, now that you use InSequel software, how do you like it?
InSequel has delivered. They truly are written for fastener distributors. It's affordable and their support staff is great.
We found InSequel's support staff has depth. They know our industry, and they certainly know their software. I see they've helped you pronounce InSequel.
Yes, but what does InSequel mean? Is it written in SQL? Is the data stored in SQL? Are they located in SQL?
InSequel uses the industry standard Microsoft SQL database, which is why it's so powerful and easy to use.
Oh, the database is stored in SQL. I don't even know where that is. I hear it's a nice place.
Harry, InSequel uses a SQL database because it's current technology and your data is completely accessible. No more expensive custom reports.
Is that why InSequel is so easy to use? Where is SQL on the map?
One of their many support members will help you answer that. Go to their website, www.inxsql.com, or call toll-free 877-446-9775.
You will meet over 2,000 fastener professionals from key manufacturing industries when you attend Fastener Fair USA, North America's only show for the entire fastener supply chain, taking place April 11th and 12th, 2018 in Cleveland, Ohio. Fastener Fair USA attracts manufacturers, distributors, suppliers, and end users from North America's fastest growing industries, such as automotive, aerospace, construction, equipment manufacturers, and many more. More than 200 companies from around the world will exhibit at Fastener Fair USA 2018, showcasing the latest in industrial and construction fasteners, assembly and installation systems, manufacturing technology, and much more. Take advantage of the opportunity to grow your business with our high-level education and training taught by industry experts, including the Fastener Training Institute, who will be participating in the inaugural show, offering product and technical training. Connect with customers and peers on the show floor and after hours at our welcome reception on April 11th at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There is truly something for everyone who's part of the fastener supply chain at Fastener Fair USA. To request information on exhibiting or visiting Fastener Fair USA, go to fastenerfair.com/USA or call show management at 866-899-4728. We'll see you at Fastener Fair USA 2018 in the heart of America's manufacturing region, April 11th and 12th at Huntington Convention Center, Cleveland, Ohio.
Hi, this is Joanne with Star Stainless in Woodville, Illinois. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you, Fully Threaded
Radio.
Yes, most of you know that Brian and I are not sitting in the same recording studio, if you want to call it a studio. I'm in FTR East, and that is located in fabulous rural Northeast Ohio. Not too far from Cleveland, Bry.
And not too far from very good fishing lakes. It's much more important.
One of the many fringe benefits of living in this part of the world, but coming up in just a short amount of time, actually a few weeks, April 11th through the 12th in Cleveland, Fastener Fair USA is coming up. We've been talking a lot about it on the podcast, and rejoining us to give us an update on the show. Excitement is building. It's Jessica Boweak. She's the exhibition manager. Hey, Jessica, thanks for hopping in here with us again.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me today.
That's right. It's fine.
Can you believe it? It's a month away. It's come up so fast.
Yeah, right. So now we have to really start working, okay?
Yes, the clock is ticking. You've got a countdown clock prominently shown here on the website, which is fastenerfair.com. Fastener Fair USA coming up once again in Cleveland at the Huntington Convention Center, Cleveland, Ohio, April 11th through the 12th. Last time we spoke, Jessica, we got off the horn and you shot an email over, and we were considering doing some kind of a live radio style broadcast or something of that sort. Are we still on for that? What happened? I mean, Brian and I are just, I can't even explain the excitement.
Yeah.
Oh, well, unfortunately, we sold the space. But you guys have your own booth space.
You did what?
Well, we've had such great enthusiasm and support from the fastener and fixing companies that we have exceeded, where our expectations were about 200 booths. We're over 250 booths, and we still have a month left. So we're running short on space. So we utilize that space.
I hope you're very creative in making up new spaces.
I know. We could definitely figure that out, and we'll always add on. But we definitely still have the space for you in your booth space.
But you pass up the chance of having Eric sitting there with a set of headphones on.
I know, but Eric, you know what? We could make space in one of our meeting rooms if you like, especially for you. I have no problem.
You know what? It's a great sign when you have to start creatively making more space on a show floor, and you're in this business, so you certainly know that. What other things can you tell us in the way of updates to the information you gave last time? I mean, this thing is coming down the pike.
It is. So we have some great, about 20 expert-led sessions on the show floor, along with a keynote expert panel opening morning. They're going to be discussing the future of the fastener industry, which will be we'll launch our show, and then we'll do a ribbon cutting after. So we're really excited about that. Oh. We're going to have a welcome party at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I hope you guys are going to be joining us on April 11th.
Wouldn't miss that one.
I know you wouldn't miss it. We're really excited about that. And we opened up our registration since I think the last time we spoke, and so that's going extremely well. We have companies that are joining or attending for the 2 days, such as General Motors, Grainger, Fastenal, Amazon, and many more, but we're really excited about that. And I looked today before we got on to see where everyone's, coming from, and we have about 17 countries that will be attending the show so far. So that's really exciting.
So which languages do we have to practice?
A lot. Different ones. A lot. Can you do that? I think you get on an app.
You do, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So speaking of apps, for people who want to keep track of the exhibitors and things, can you get a current list of exhibitors and things like that in a phone-friendly app?
Oh, absolutely. If you go to our website and you can go under the exhibitor listing, we have Map Your Show, so you can kind of create. You can go through whether you want to look at the alpha listing, you want to have add to your favorites, so you can kind of target the different exhibitors that you like to attend or go to visit with. And then if you want to do the alpha listing, or you can look at the floor plan and it will star the different booths that you are intended to go to, which is really nice. Okay. And then if you're not really savvy with your phone and you don't want to work with that, we'll also have a nice show directory on site.
Okay. Right. We have to pretend that we're more modern. We don't use books. We use apps and computers. Okay.
I know you guys are fancy, high tech over there.
If only you could see.
I think it's pretty fair to say at this point in our relationship, Jessica, that Brian's a little bit of an anomaly in the fastener industry, but we love him so much.
You accept him for who he is.
Right.
The many sides of Brian Musker. Once again, folks, Fastener Fair USA, it's happening in Cleveland, April 11th through the 12th. This is an industry-wide show, and if you're on the East Coast, if you're on the West Coast, we hope to see you there. The website, once again, www.fastenerfair.com. Before we let you go, Jessica, I wanted to ask you, are you much of a Bon Jovi fan?
I am.
See, how did I know that?
How did you know that? I like Bon Jovi. I'm from the 80s, so come on.
I could tell. Well, we're all meeting at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for your big bash, as we mentioned a few moments ago, and Bon Jovi's one of the 2018 inductees. There are a couple others.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple others out there I know. Let's see, the Cars, Dire Straits, Jay Giles, a couple. Or, these actually, are these the nominees or are these the inductees I'm reading?
Dire Straits, I prefer.
Oh, that just went off the tracks.
Yeah. Well, you never know though. You might be able to see, because of the same weekend, the weekend following this show. You might have some celebrity spotting as well.
Well, that's what I was leading up to, as though we need to pile more excitement onto this whole thing. Jessica Boweak, thanks so much for joining us again. We're going to see you out here in just a few weeks at Fastener Fair USA.
Right.
Thank you.
Can't wait.
Can't wait to see you guys.
The Fastener News Report is coming up in mere moments. This time, Mike's joined by Bob Baer to mull over the latest FDI numbers. Brian, when we were recording this, I should have asked Bob Baer if he's any relation to Max Baer, he of Beverly Hillbillies fame.
Oh, wow. Where did you drag that up?
You never know. I mean,
God. Okay.
Just wondering. I've always thought that. I don't know why I just chose now to bring that out.
Well, you better write it down so next time you talk to Bob, you can ask him, okay?
Just after we recorded that discussion with Jessica, I received an email from Joyce Gerber over there at EFC International.
Yep.
They're exhibiting at Fastener Fair USA. They'll be in booth 521 if you're curious. And, of course, you'll want to get over there if you're a guitar player or if you know a guitar player or if you just like rock and roll artifacts, I guess.
Yeah, why?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because a lot of people know.
Of course.
A lot of people know, but I guess a few don't. The president of EFC International, Matt Dudenhofer, is the former lead guitar player of a band called Gravity Kills. Were you familiar with those guys, Brian? Gravity Kills?
No.
Not really your kind of band. More, I guess, what they would have called a hair band, but they were big. I mean, they were all over MTV for a while, apparently, and you can actually go onto YouTube, and if you fire up Gravity Kills, you can see EFC President Matt Dudenhofer, probably in spandex, doing his stuff.
Okay, that might have put me off, okay? However, I have no problem going to say hi to him at the booth. EFC have been good customers of ours for a fair while.
Yes, EFC has been a longtime member of the FCH Sourcing Network. And, we never brought it up because I didn't know if Matt was trying to keep that a little bit kind of on the down low.
Yeah.
But now, apparently they're busting that secret, that inside secret wide open because they're giving away a really awesome-looking limited edition Les Paul style Epiphone guitar signed by Matt Dudenhofer.
Oh, wow.
That's right. So in addition to redefining the world of distribution, which is what EFC does, you can stop by their booth at Fastener Fair and get the chance to win this pretty awesome looking guitar. I got the email here, and it's got the, I don't know, what do you call this, the starburst pattern? Really cool looking axe.
I would say if you're only still just considering the Fastener Fair USA, then that might be a reason to turn up. As well as looking at fasteners, of course.
Yeah, there's always that. Well, Joyce did a good job of playing up the whole rock and roll theme of this show. So booth 521 for EFC. We're right down the show floor a little bit there, Brian, because we're in booth 444 at Fastener Fair.
Okay. I mean, you could just go to EFC and talk to Joyce. She's pretty easy to talk to, okay? She's been our contact there for a long time.
She's probably a Bon Jovi fan. Speaking of Fastener Fair, one other point, we were talking with Jessica after we hung up with her, and she pointed out that Fastener Fair Mexico is also coming up. We've supported that show in the past. This year, it's happening on June 20th and 21st, and they've changed cities. So this time, Fastener Fair Mexico is happening in Guadalajara, which is just east of Puerto Vallarta.
Okay.
Was happening in Mexico City, now in Guadalajara.
It's a pretty big show for the South American people, and if you're interested in doing business in South America, then you really have to come to this one.
Fastener Fair Mexico's turned into another success for Mack Brooks. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stelfast and Lindstrom. And the Fastener News Report is brought to us today by Volt Industrial Plastics and Fastenal. Thanks again for listening, folks. We're going to hand the reins over to Mike McNulty.
who is totally focused on fasteners at the moment.
Which is good, because we seem to be kind of losing our focus a little bit today, but
oh, okay.
I guess we should hasten Mike McNulty on, and here he is with the Fastener News Report.
Thanks, Eric and Brian. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored today by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. It's still snowing here in Ohio, with local baseball games less than a month away and the looming prospects of steel and aluminum trade wars on the horizon, but I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, we're going to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have a top story on GL Huyett and ITW, and newsmaker headlines from several famous fastener firms, including Edsco Fasteners, Park, Ohio, Shamrock International, Rottwasher, Valley Forge and Bolt, Women in the Fastener Industry, and the International Fastener Expo. On the back page report, we're going to talk about American breweries. We will get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
Whether you need a small or large number of fasteners, there is no reason why you should have to sacrifice quality or service for that matter. Volt Industrial Plastics takes great care with each and every order to ensure you receive a quality fastener in a timely and affordable manner. Our state-of-the-art production equipment allows us to produce any quantity you request quickly and efficiently. And with same-day shipping on nearly 1 million in-stock fasteners, we carry an inventory so you don't have to. Visit us online at voltplastics.com to find out more about our quality American-made products. Volt Industrial Plastics, manufacturer of the finest plastic fasteners in the world.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or Fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting Fastenal.com today.
ND Industries has been solving customers' toughest problems through innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service since 1955. A family-owned business, ND Industries manufactures and applies fastener locking, bonding, sealing, masking, and assembling products. Their pre-application process makes fasteners ready to use at the point of assembly, resulting in reduced labor costs, time savings, and superior quality assurance. As a fully integrated company, ND handles all aspects of operations, from formulating custom chemical compounds and coating fasteners to providing inline inspection, packaging, and delivery services. ND Industries serves the global market with 13 divisions in the continental U.S. and also facilities in Taiwan, China, and Turkey. Learn more about ND Industries at our website at www.ndindustries.com. ND Industries, innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service. Contact ND today.
You're listening to Mike McNulty's Fastener News Report on Fully Threaded Radio.
The seasonally adjusted FDI for February 2018 was 60.4, moderating very slightly versus January's 60.8, but remaining well into expansion territory. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network, the National Fastener Distributors Association, and Baer. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. And to get some insights on these results, we talked to Bob Baer, president of Abbott Interfast and immediate past president of the MWFA. Hi, Bob. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me on again. Really appreciate it. It's always fun to join you guys and join the podcast.
Yeah.
What a run we're having here. 13 up months in a row on the FDI above the line.
Yeah, clearly in expansion territory.
Yeah, not only that, but I think I think we had one month that was maybe a 49.5 right at the line, and if we generously say that was flat, we're really 16 months above the red here in a row. 2 of those months contained the highest FDI index number ever, and the forward-looking index, which is fairly new, has been positive since day one. Month to month, if you look at the graph, it looks a little bit like a roller coaster, up, down, up, down, up, down, but all above the line and very positive. So I would say fastener industry is having a hell of a run here.
Yeah, it's the place to be. You mentioned the FLI, the forward-looking indicator, which was introduced just a little, I think, late last year. And in February, it came in at 58.3, which is in a high expansion area, but it's down a little bit from January's 64.7, which is one of the highest ones we've had in the last, or since it's being reported. So moderated a little bit, which kind of goes in line with the FDI being a slight dip from January to February, but still very positive.
Yeah, everything about the reports have been pretty much up. The PMI is probably, of all the things on here, the PMI is probably the most consistent. I did a little number crunching anticipating this session, and the PMI, the standard deviation on the PMI is 1.9, and the FDI index, while above the line the last 12 months, standard deviations are around 3.3. So we're fluctuating more up and down. Mm-hmm. But all these numbers are good. The numbers are great. I think you talk to anybody in the industry, and everybody's got a smile on their face right now. Yeah.
In particular, on this report, in the folks at R.W. Baer put together a nice report every month with the data, so anybody participating in this gets the full report. And some of the numbers in the table there, sales, employment, and pricing looked very strong. One thing that caught my attention was the 6-month outlook dipped a little bit. We've got now 11% of the respondents expecting sales to be lower 6 months from now in August. What do you attribute that to?
Well, first of all, I think every economist in the industry, and we have a handful of them that really get around to all our trade associations, I think all of them have been touting the idea that second half of this year things are going to taper a little bit. So that can't help but be in the back of everybody's mind. From my own perspective, I just can't see a run like this continuing up. I'm one of those people in the category of 6 months from now, I see it being down a little bit when I submit my data.
No. And down from a high point, so.
Exactly. Yeah. Obviously the tariffs hitting in the last month, I think that adds a little bit of uncertainty here with right. Trump's, instituting those. And so anyway, I think there's a lot of things pointing to business being down. But gosh, I think I said that 3 months ago, but it continues to climb.
Yeah, I think the tariffs are definitely, and we in the comments section, it was on the mind of at least one of the people who filled out comments. They said the caveat over the next 6 months will be the impact of the proposed steel tariffs, which I feel will adversely affect the fastener industry. So that's definitely on somebody's mind, probably a little bit on everybody's mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things. The tariffs are going to directly affect things like motor vehicles and Boeing and Caterpillar and things that we probably aren't even thinking about, like Coca-Cola, because the tin cans, Pepsi. It's absolutely going to affect some things directly. It's going to affect fasteners indirectly. And the worst part about this is the trade war that could come with everybody throwing tariffs on our exports, which helps nobody really. A trade war is not good for anybody, any economy. But as far as fasteners go, I don't know how detailed we want to get into the tariffs, but the material costs more coming in. I think there's a good chance that if we're currently buying domestic fasteners made from import material and the tariffs go up, if the U.S. manufacturers don't beef up their production to lower their pricing, which economies of scale by theory should, people, instead of bringing material in and having product made here, will just bring in more finished product. They didn't do anything with the tariffs there, so just bring it in complete.
Yeah, and my simple view is there's always unintended consequences when you try to manipulate markets and economies and government. But on the flip side too, I see that when your trading partners aren't trading fair, you want to fight back. So wish there was an easy solution, but there's always unintended consequences when you try to manipulate things.
Yeah, I agree. I think the world market is just too complex. There are too many variables now, and you can't affect one thing without affecting another. I just hope that the White House gives a lot of thought to this. The loss of Gary Cohen certainly isn't going to help. His experience will be lost, and he was a critical guy against this. But since they are instituted, it's going to be a tricky situation balancing everything. Of course, it always is, but Trump seems to be losing his people left and right, so a little worried about that.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on
yeah, exactly.
Government intervention. And to me, the best things, you reduce regulations and you reduce taxes and you talk about getting out of the way, and look what happened. Everything starts taking off. So that's, in my view, that's the way to go. But,
yeah, absolutely. And I think $1.3 billion reduction in estimated corporate taxes by reducing that rate has really generated a lot of business.
And they should look at reducing some spending, and we'd be really in good shape.
There you go. The other thing on this report, if you did get the detail of the index, is the job market. And I think it's no secret that the job market is as hot as it's been in a long time.
Yeah.
Unemployment is holding at 4.1%. The participation rate, which is something always talked about in the background, the number of people actually looking for jobs is up. Initial job claims are the lowest since 1969. So the job market is on fire, and there's some worry that inflation will follow, but I think most likely we're going to see a rate hike here with the Fed, maybe one or two in the very near future.
Right, try to slow things down a little bit. Let's see. We had a couple other comments. Somebody said sales were up 15% year to date, and steel prices are going up. That ties into the talk about steel tariffs. And also note, we just heard Charlie Kerr in the previous part of the podcast talking about the effects of the steel tariffs. So it's definitely on people's minds in a lot of areas.
Yeah, there's a lot of good podcasts and articles, flying around right now, even within our own industry on Twitter, regarding these tariffs and what impact they'll have and what's going on. And until that is ironed out and he figures out who's being taxed and how much, I think we're going to see there's going to be a little uncertainty. And our index is going to, probably the next index month comes in, is going to have a few more comments. But I think we're going to be looking at a little bit of volatility here.
All right. Well, as you said, most people in the fastener industry have smiles on their faces, and we're seeing that too in the publishing business. Things are going well, and then we've got a couple trade events coming up here in the spring, and I know that maybe we'll use as a segue to get into. You're still involved with the MWFA, past president. I think you're still on the board, and anything you want to tell us what's going on down the road with the MWFA?
Sure. Always happy to talk about the MWFA. We have a new president this year, Wayne Wishnu from XL Screw. He's been involved in our association for a long, long time and is now at the helm and doing a great job so far. We have a couple events coming up. We just finished our all-day Fascination with Fasteners beginning seminar. That was a nice success. We had a nice turnout. We have our tabletop show coming up June 4th. And then our 66th annual golf outing is the following day, June 5th. So a combination of those two always brings a lot of people in the industry out, and it's always good to see people and network. It's a more of a close show when you can walk up right up to the table. It's not as formal as the Rosemont Fastener Tech, and it brings a lot of local people in. And I think it's just a little more comfortable show in terms of being able to have conversation and network. You're not pressed for time to make it through the whole show. It's an afternoon show.
Yeah, it's definitely informal and a nice atmosphere from the times that I've been there.
Yes, it is. And thank you for allowing me to broadcast that on behalf of the MWFA. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. And thanks for joining us. And hopefully the next time that you're back on the show, it's still talking about being in expansion territory, maybe a little bit lower, but still hopefully on the north side of the 50.0 line.
Yes, let's continue the run and go for a record here. And I appreciate being on, and I would be happy to come back anytime to talk with you guys about this. So, Eric and Brian, thank you also.
Well, you're welcome, Bob, and thanks for joining us. That was Bob Baer. He's the president of Abbott Interfast, and he's the immediate past president of the MWFA. The FDI number for February was 60.4. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story. GL Huyett, an ISO-certified manufacturer and master distributor of non-threaded fasteners, has acquired the Handy Check package fastener business of ITW Shakeproof Industrial Products. The acquisition includes equipment, inventory, assets, and intellectual property, including the Handy Check brand name. Handy Check was founded in the 1970s and catered to farm and ranch stores in the upper Midwest of the United States. The brand was purchased by Rain Letsky, was later acquired by B Industries, and folded into the ITW Shakeproof Industrial Products family. Along the way, Handy Check was promoted to the industrial supply channel, and the Handy Check kits are now advertised and sold by many catalog distributors. This is the third acquisition that GL Huyett has completed in the last 2 years. GL Huyett's CEO Tim O'Keefe will be on with Eric and Brian later on in the show. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In acquisition, expansion, and investment news, Edsco Fasteners has acquired Tower Support Services. Apex Supply Chain Technologies has opened a new state-of-the-art European headquarters facilities in the UK. Park, Ohio has acquired Canton Drop Forge. Shamrock International has announced that Shamrock Europe is now open for business and that Flores Summers is now the managing director of Shamrock International Components Deutschland. Right Way Fasteners is investing almost $10 million for new automotive fastener making equipment. 3M has opened a new innovation center in Washington, D.C., and Brighton Best International has expanded its Strongville, Ohio warehouse. In personnel news, Rottwasher Manufacturing has announced that Beth Reed has been promoted to the new position of New Product Development Manager. Andrew Pfeiffer has joined Attotech North America as Business Manager, Coating and Plating Technology. Components Company Incorporated has hired George James as an account specialist and estimator. Mikhail Jansen has been appointed as the new employee representative to the Bolton AB Board of Directors. Valley Forge and Bolt Manufacturing has announced that James Brooks has joined the company as Director of Engineering and New Business Development. And Annixter International Incorporated has announced that Robert J. Eck will retire as CEO at the end of June 2018, and on July 1st, William A. Galvin will become Annixter's president and CEO. In Fastener Trade Show news, the Women in the Fastener Industry, also known as Wi-Fi, is hosting Gail Friedberg, Vice President and co-owner of Zago Manufacturing Company, and Christine Hunt, Wellness Coordinator for Brighton Best International, as speakers at this year's Fastener Fair USA Expo and Conference in Cleveland, Ohio. The International Fastener Expo, aka IFE, has partnered with the European Fastener Distributor Association, also known as EFDA, to bring a large delegation from 11 different European countries to the IFE 2018 trade show in Las Vegas this October. And the Taiwan International Fastener Show will be held next month in Taiwan, and it will feature over 400 exhibitors and 2,000 international buyers of fasteners. You can get details on all these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report newsletter, available in print, PDF, and flipbook editions by visiting fastenertech.com. Finally, let's turn to the back page to talk about American breweries. The American Enterprise Institute, aka AEI, recently published an interesting chart with the tagline, "Welcome to the Golden Age of Beer." The text accompanying the chart says that the number of American breweries reached a record of more than 6,000 at the end of last year. That is a threefold increase in the number of breweries in just 6 years since 2011, and a 700 increase in breweries in 2017 alone. That translates into 2 new USA breweries every day during the last year. The chart also shows a post-prohibition low point of 79 breweries in 1978, which we might blame on Jimmy Carter. The pre-prohibition record was about 4,000 USA breweries in 1875. The AEI is a public policy think tank dedicated to defending human dignity, expanding human potential, and building a freer and safer world. Their work advances ideas rooted in the belief in in democracy, free enterprise, American strength and global leadership, solidarity with those at the edge of society, and a pluralistic entrepreneurial culture, including beer. The chart was posted on the blog at aei.org called Carpe Diem, which loosely translated means seize the day. For the beer chart, they added the line Carpe Humilis, which means seize the hop. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International, bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
He may be threadless, but he's not shedless. He's GL Hewitt's Tim O'Keefe, and he's with us up next on Fully Threaded.
Why do distributors turn to Lindstrom? Because we're committed to being the source for everything distributors need, including packaging and manufacturing. If you need less than bulk, packaged product off the shelf, or custom packaging, Lindstrom has it all. Ask about kits, assortments, and our new VMI bin pack program. Whether you need special lengths or thread pitch, altered parts, studs, or manufactured parts, inch or metric, large parts or small, Lindstrom has you covered. We also manufacture special washers in addition to sockets, bolts, and nuts. Need a prototype part? Call Lindstrom. As the leading specialty fastener master distributor, Lindstrom is focused on a single goal: to bring our distributors the perfect combination of convenience, flexibility, value, and choice. To be the source for everything distributors need. When you need something special, turn to Lindstrom. To learn more about Lindstrom and our expanded brand of value-added products and services, visit LindstromFastener.com or call a sales representative at 1-800-572-5550. Lindstrom, by any measure.
This is Paula Ebbett, MWFA Fastener Show Chairman, inviting you to join us June 4th for our 37th Annual Fastener Show. This year's show will be at Belvedere Banquets in Elk Grove, Illinois. This event is produced by the fastener industry for the fastener industry. Its success returns to the industry through scholarships, education, and informative programs. Also join us for the largest fastener industry golf outing the following day. More details of these events can be found at mwfa.net. Hope to see you there.
I need 5,000 3/4, 10 by 9 and 3/4 grade 8 zinc yellow tap bolts right away, but they're not a standard size.
Solution Man Ken. I carry a wide variety of sizes and I can quickly cut them to any length. See Solution Industries website for details at solutionind.com.
Using your bare hands?
I do use a saw on smaller parts, actually.
Welcome, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Institute, coming to you from the Carver Fact Center here in beautiful San Diego, California. Today, we're going to continue our series of talks on torque wrenches and the use of torque wrenches. And I want to give you a kind of a tricky way to not calibrate, but to check out whether or not your torque wrench is accurate. From time to time, when I'm doing torque tension testing here or even bolt torquing, something's just not coming out right, and I wonder if that torque wrench is really working the way it's supposed to. So I have a tricky way to do that. You have to put your thinking cap on. It's going to take a little bit of theater of the mind action here as I describe to you how to do this trick. So when we come back, you'll learn how to check your torque wrench for accuracy.
Thanks, Carmen. This is Joe Morris with the Fastener Training Institute. We have a crazy busy spring coming up at the Fastener Training Institute. March and April are jam-packed with some great training classes for all levels of students. On March 27th, the Fastener Training Institute travels to the Northwest to visit the Bay Area in California to present Fastener Basics. This is a full-day class that combines the highlights of our 3-part product training program into an extremely valuable one-day course. If you have new employees or you're cross-training and promoting existing employees, you need this class. Students will learn basic terminology, how to call out parts, hex head products, nuts, sockets, washers, and much, much more. Also, on March 23rd, we will present the webinar, Understanding Fastener Blueprints. This could easily be the most profitable 90 minutes of training you ever take. It doesn't matter if you are in sales, quoting customers, purchasing, buying parts, or quality inspecting parts. This webinar will benefit you. You will learn not only the fundamentals of print reading, but also a tutorial on making your own prints and essential information needed on absolutely all drawings. If you can't fit training into your schedule in March, we have plenty of options for you in April. Listen to this. We will be hosting Fastener Training Week, Fastening 101, Understanding the Bolted Joint, Automotive Fastener Technology, and Understanding Hydrogen Embrittlement. We have a class for the fastener newbies as well as the experienced veterans. For more details and a complete listing of all of our classes, please visit our website at fastenertraining.org or email me at jom@fastenertraining.com. Now back to Carmen.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Fastener Training Minute. This is Carmen Vertullo. We are going to be continuing our series on understanding the use of torque wrenches. And today I'm going to tell you how to check your torque wrench for accuracy. So I'm going to speak kind of slowly here because I want you to take a minute. You're going to have to use your imagination as I describe this. It would be nice if we had video, but we don't. So here we go. So the object of the game with a torque wrench, of course, is to apply a certain torque to the fastener that you're installing. And torque is equal to force times distance. So if you have a torque wrench that's a foot long, for example, and you put 10 pounds of force 1 foot from the end of it, that's going to apply 10 foot-pounds of torque to that bolt. So if you can imagine when we put the torque wrench into a calibration machine, that's what they do. You apply the 10 foot-pounds and the 20 and the 30 and the 40, and the machine is capable of measuring that. And in the lab, that's how they calibrate it. Well, we don't have a lab and we don't have a machine, so we're going to do this trick to determine whether or not our torque wrench is functioning properly. So we can take our torque wrench, let's for the sake of this demonstration, assume it's a clicker type torque wrench, and we're going to set it to say 40 foot-pounds. It's a foot-pound torque wrench. And take that torque wrench, and if you have a bench vise, you'll need a bench vise to do this. Clamp the end of the torque wrench that would normally go into the socket into the bench vise and arrange it such that the torque wrench is hanging out in midair with nothing below it off of the end of the bench, not on the bench, but off of the end of the bench. Go and find a 5-gallon plastic pail, kind of like you would get at the Home Depot. You'll need to know the weight of that pail, and I think they weigh about 1 3/4 pounds. So that's not that important, but good to know. Then all torque wrenches have what's called an arm, or the standard length between the socket and where you would grab it with your hand and apply the force. For a foot-pound torque wrench like this one, it's probably about 18 or 24 inches. Let's assume it's 24 inches. That's 2 feet. Let's set our torque wrench to 20 foot-pounds. Then we're going to hang that bucket on there, and then we're going to add some weight to that bucket. Now, there are a couple of ways we can know what the weight is, but we're all fastener folks. So a good thing we could use for that weight is half-inch hex nuts. I don't know exactly what a half-inch hex nut weighs, but they all weigh the same. You can go on the IFI technology connection and find that out. And then you're going to slowly add half-inch hex nuts to the pail until the torque wrench clicks. Knowing how much the nuts weigh, knowing how much the pail weighs, and also knowing that torque equals force times distance, and we have 2 feet out and our torque wrench is set at 20 foot-pounds, there should be 10 pounds of weight in that bucket. If we have 10 pounds plus or minus about 5%, you know the torque wrench is functioning properly. Also, even if you don't have hex nuts or you have some other type of thing you want to put in there, you could use water, you could use sand. You just add stuff until the torque wrench clicks. Because we're all fastener folks, we probably have a precision weighing scale back in the warehouse somewhere. Take that bucket over to the scale and weigh it and do the math. Torque equals force times distance. You can do this with indicating torque wrenches. You can do it with large torque wrenches, small torque wrenches. You can use a little paint can instead of the Home Depot bucket, and so on. But keep in mind, this is not a calibration of your torque wrench. It's simply a way to check if it's accurate. If you have any doubts, you should send it out to the lab and have it recalibrated. Well, I hope you had enough imagination to be able to figure that out. It's a kind of a fun thing to do. So if you doubt your torque wrench, now you know how to check it out. This was Carmen Vertullo for the Fastener Training Minute and the Fastener Training Institute. Thanks for listening.
This is a traveling salesman at Fastener Talk, fastenerblog.net, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you in the online Fastener Squawk Box, Fully Threaded.
Predominantly fastener related.
That would be us, yes.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times, Brian, people ask us who uses FCH, the FCH sourcing network, and I kind of have this canned response, and it's, well, some of the largest master distributors in the industry, all the way down to two guys in a shed in a cornfield.
Right.
And
very true.
Yes. You know, as I was reading the history of Minneapolis, Kansas-based GL Huyett, I saw a couple of parallels there, and that is only one of the reasons that we invited our guest, Tim O'Keefe. He's the president of GL Huyett, onto the podcast today. Hey, Tim, you out there?
I am. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Once again, Tim O'Keefe, you're the president and CEO of GL Huyett. Great website, man. Are you joining us actually from a wheat field, as it says out there on the website?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're out here in the middle of a wheat field, and right now we are in the flyway of migratory waterfowl. So if you go outside right now, you have to have an umbrella because you never know if they might drop something. But the skies are dark as the geese fly north, so we're out here in the middle of nowhere.
Wow. Well, I hope lots of the geese from Chicago get up north too, actually, to tell you the truth.
They're getting domesticated, aren't they? It's too bad.
Yeah, they are. It's really a problem.
Yeah.
Every region has its perils. Some places you have to watch hitting deer. In the Chicago area, it's geese, and it sounds like Kansas, it's similar. Well, I tell you, I was only slightly speaking in jest when I was talking about two guys in a cornfield, and we want to hear a little bit about some of the history of GL Huyett and what the company's doing today as well, and we'll get to that. But could you just fill, before we do, our audience in on why all the references to sheds and GL Huyett in your history?
Well, I'm a big believer that culture is very important, and I think culture is kind of a synthesis of your history, your experiences, and so we've studied our history, our corporate history here, being here, and the storyline was a German immigrant named Guy Huyett bought the hardware stock of the Globe department store in downtown Minneapolis, Kansas, which downtown Minneapolis, Kansas is about 10 buildings. Back in 1899, he incorporated the business in 1906. As such, we're probably one of the oldest continuously operated businesses in the state of Kansas.
Wow.
So
pretty cool. It's hard to keep a business running 10 years, let alone 100.
Oh, yeah. And by the 20s, they allegedly bought a hotel up the road and hauled it with horses down the mud road, just drug it down to the location that it was located when I purchased the business back in 1992. And it was a metal tin shed. And if you go upstairs in that old building, which now you'd probably fall through, there's old wallpaper peeling off, the upstairs. So it clearly was a hotel. And on the floor, the main floor, there's so much work over the last century or so that the knots in the wood floor, because they're harder, the knot is harder than the soft wood around it. When you walk around the wood floor in the bottom of that tin shed, the knots are sticking up above the rest of the floor because there's been so much foot traffic over the years working in there.
Wow.
So
And that's your office now. Is that what you're leading up to?
It was for, it was for 1992 to 1997. And, we did not have restroom facilities. So, men's room was outside unless it was number 2. And then that was down at the gas station. All the women would go, down to the gas station for those first, 5 or 6 years. And then, as we expanded, we, of course, my first time through, you make all the dumb mistakes you do as a new entrepreneur, but we bought a brand new construction trailer. I think we paid like $18,000 for this thing for our first office that we mounted in front of that tin shed. And as we continued to grow, one time one of the guys said, I know this dude over in Salina, Kansas that deals in used mobile homes. And so the second time through, we just bought used mobile homes. We bought 2 more for about $2,000, and we'd gut them. And we actually have a longtime employee here named Betty Gibson. She works in our IT area. But when she started at G.L. Huyett back in 93, she started in the bathroom. And her office, her desk, was where the vanity was, and she had milk crates for file cabinets in the bathtub, and then where the toilet was a file cabinet. So we kind of have a rich history here, and we're proud of it.
Okay. Now, I'm not sure if I turned up at a company looking at a prospective job and they ushered me into the water closet that I'd be that impressed, I have to say.
I don't think you would be. I know we had a sales tax audit one time, and we had cats. And we only had one room that was air conditioned or heated. So to pick an order, you'd go out into a cold or hot area and recover parts and bring it back to a central area that had heating and cooling. And so when we had the sales tax audit, I was walking around the building, working or whatever, and I come back in, the sales tax auditor is sitting in the air conditioned area with our books like on the desk, and there's a cat on her lap, and she's petting the cat, auditing our sales tax. So we've had quite a few stories down there.
Right. It's probably better to have a friendly sales tax auditor, though.
It is. It is. My recommendation is if you want to get through the audit, just have cats sitting around. So.
I haven't spent much time in Kansas, but if I had to guess, I would say that is such a Kansas kind of story.
It is. I guess another kind of early story was G.L. Huyett became known early in the 20th century for machinery bushings, which were a series of, at the time, considered precision washers. They would by no means be classified that way now. And we primarily at that time sold them through 3-tiered ag distribution. So like you had True Part Manufacturing, which is a tractor parts distributor up in Minneapolis, Orgill Brothers down in Memphis area, Stowe Hardware in Kansas City, people like that. At that time, it was sold, to a big wholesaler, and then the wholesaler would sell it to other distributors and then to the users. But we would count machine bushings onto wires and sell them in rings of 5, 10, and 25. And the local townsfolk here in Minneapolis were recruited to do that wiring. And there was a building just south of us that had a big oak tree on it. And back in the day, the people in Minneapolis would gather underneath that oak tree on Sundays, and they'd sip whiskey and count these machinery bushings out and wire them under rings of 5, 10, and 25. And they called themselves the South Side Sunday Sipping Society.
I'm liking this.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this.
And so it was I don't know how many S's that is, but it was the SSSSS. And I can't tell you how many times over the years, people come in here and go, is this where the SSSSS is at? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then someday when somebody told me. So a lot of interesting stories we've had here.
Now, quality control would have been a problem at that stage, especially as it got later in the afternoon.
Oh, most definitely.
Did it have five bushings or 4 bushings?
I'm sure it would have been. And, it's they made it through it. How else do you get along out here, during the Dust Bowl and, the Great Depression and, the emergence of, modern agricultural equipment? I guess you had to have a little whiskey to get yourself through it. So.
Yeah, people can claim you needed to get through all sorts of things, not just the Dust Bowl, okay?
Yeah, some things never change in the fastener industry, Tim. Sounds like.
Yeah, that's what I hear. You know, you go to any bar at a trade show and it's the Southside Sunday Sipping Society just on a different day.
Yeah, this is true. That's a great story, but it's really, it's a long and a very good history. It's very, very unusual to have companies with long history, they've been operating, doing really interesting, great things for a long time.
GL Huyett has clearly come a long way over that time, and just for the sake of putting everybody in a position where they understand where you are now, please give us a thumbnail. What is the company doing after all this evolution? And I think a lot of our listeners are pretty well familiar, but please, if you had to give your elevator pitch, how would you do it?
Well, we're a one-stop shop for non-threaded fasteners, and I would say there's probably three things that set us apart. We, first of all, have a very technically astute sales force, and that's both internally with a couple of sales engineers on the inside and a field sales force that encompasses all of North America, and is comprised of our own direct employees as well as some very premier manufacturers reps out there. We partner with the Lehman ladies out in California at Pacific Warehouse Sales. Mm-hmm. We recently paired up with Terry May at Pro West Marketing up in the Pacific Northwest, Jean-Luc Paire in Canada, and Rob Steers down in Southeast area. But we really try to be sure that group of people has the information that they need to, take care of our customers. They have the skill and they have the talent. The second thing we do is we manage our workflows very carefully here. We manage the quotation process. We manage the customer experience. We manage our quotes in real time so that we get back to people very quickly. And we also manage the receipt process. For example, we kind of affectionately call it the pack list that can save your life. But our pack lists, when they show up at your door, first of all, they're reprinted in the same order that the order was submitted or keyed to us. So in theory, that pack list order should match the purchase order and receipt of goods at our customer. It has product images, which is helpful where you have bilingual warehouses for easier product recognition, and it's fully barcoded. So we manage that experience. And then the last thing is our e-commerce experience. One of the things that strikes me in the fastener industry is the amount of time spent on non-value added administrative activity. Somebody sends a supplier an RFQ. It's received via email. It's printed off. It's reviewed. It's entered, reprinted, rescanned, resent back to the customer. Then the customer has to process it, and now they have their price and availability. When you have an e-commerce experience, you log on and you have your price and availability. Same thing with tracking numbers, customer statements. We now offer material and heat treat certifications free of charge from account history in most cases. So the e-commerce experience. So it's our technical sales, our workflows, and our e-commerce experience that I think sets us apart as a one-stop shop for non-threaded fasteners.
So as we suspected, a lot has gone on since the shed and sipping days.
Yeah, it has.
Folks can get more information about all of this, by the way, out at the website, which is Huyett.com. Huyett spelled HUYETT.com. Question for you, Tim. What percentage of your business currently, if you could share this, is e-commerce? I mean, is that something that's a growing segment? I would imagine it is.
It is. It's just crossing 20% now. And then we're working very diligently, continue to work on document management coupled with our EDI. And so we're approaching a place where 55% of our orders come in and are not touched or reviewed by human hands or eyes. So 20% e-commerce, another 35% in round numbers, EDI and through document management, where we pick up and read orders from customers and it's converted to data in our system, in our order management system. And then we have rules set inside our database so that, we can make sure that the dates we're tendering are accurate, pricing is accurate, quantity is accurate. The more you can do that, obviously the more efficient it is, but more importantly, the more accurate it is.
That's interesting. Okay.
This is going to be one of those crystal ball types of questions, so I understand there's some wiggle room in the answer, but do you see a point where 100% of your orders, or close to 100%, get to that completely human hands-free point?
I would say probably not. I could see it get to maybe 80%. We do a lot. We do manufacture here, and we leverage our manufacturing to customization. And there's always going to be that element of customization that requires fairly significant interaction. It could be problem solving in the field, and then applying that to a print, bartering or reconciling that print with our distributor customer back to the user, and then engineering the production for that part. So there's going to be a part of that I think is always going to be important. There's going to be a part of the society that's always going to be reluctant to accept the latest in technology, if you will. Yeah. But I think when you look in the future, people, it's probably in some ways unfortunate aspect of our society. It kind of reminds me of garage door openers in neighborhoods. Garage door openers in a lot of ways have ruined neighborhoods because you drive in your garage and the door drops behind you. There's no human interaction. We have to be careful of that with e-commerce and with electronic commerce as well, because, in the end, people still buy from people, and relationships are important. And so there's always going to be a limitation to that. But I think when you look at the millennials, they're on their phones all the time, and they're on their electronic devices all the time. A lot of people are buying their diapers on Amazon. At some point, this, I think, is going to be, the future, a future part of the fastener industry on some basis.
Right. But there's still a claim by many people, and we see it at the socials and things like that, there is a really important human interaction part of it. And our experience is it's one of the things that sort of separated FCH was that at the end of someone using our site, they had to call up someone, talk to them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I hear you on that. And let me emphasize, we're one of the few companies in the industry that has full coverage in field sales support. We've made an extreme commitment to a direct sales force along with our manufacturers representative partners that cover the industry. So we understand the importance of that relationship. I think the resistance or the argument, Brian, that you just used is grounded in a certain part of industrial distribution of a lack or a reluctance to get to transparent pricing. In that, in a lot of distributors and manufacturers, Brian prices his customer A at one price, Eric prices his customer C at another price, Tim prices different, and the migration from that type of non-transparent pricing to a transparent pricing in an organization is going to be a huge barrier to the acceptance of e-commerce, because there's a lot of people that are vested in non-transparent pricing.
No, I agree. I think that's a very, very important point, actually. The whole idea is, there is a fear of technology that goes behind these things, but it's not necessarily a fear of it's a fear of being replaced by technology, really.
Yep.
It's the person who has great knowledge and is sort of frightened that that knowledge can go away by a computer. It can be replaced.
Well, I think it goes more to being afraid, though, guys, because, this is an issue that we've hit like a brick wall at a couple of points where a large company, their model doesn't fit what an ERP platform, for example, is trying to offer them because of that non-transparent policy. But at a certain point, you ask yourself, well, is this a case where the technology is dictating the process? So specifically, maybe there's a time when flexible pricing really is the way it needs to be to maximize your margins and everything, and the technology just isn't able to support it. Does that sound like a scenario?
Well, it is, because, you've got to have your data, in a relational database format. I think the person that is most at risk out there is the salesman that sells based on personality. And so, nice guy, nice person, goes in to customers, everybody likes them, but when it comes down to it, like if you say, hey, can you tell me what the technical aspects of this particular situation is, or can you assist me with the a technical issue that we're having, and that person says, well, yeah, let me go talk to somebody else. Well, at some point, what value is that person bringing other than personality? And I think that increasingly distributors in particular are going to want, point of use, point of design support from their supplier partners. So we're not working on just, hey, how's your golf game? What's your kid's batting average in Little League? To, how do we collaborate to revise a design in this particular application and save the user money and increase the value of what we, GL Huyett, and our distributor customer are trying to do together. So I think the industry has a lot of people out there that still sell based on personality and really don't understand application, really don't understand process, and that person I think is at risk down the road.
Yeah, I'd agree, but I'd also say that there are several big players out there that are struggling with this whole idea of the price transparency. I mean, it's a big issue, and I'm not saying that anybody's particularly wrong on it. I just think it's something that hasn't smoothed itself out yet, and it is definitely, for those companies that are rigidly clinging to it, it's going to be a problem to get into the online transparent era, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you could sit down, if you do whiteboarding, you could sort of say, well, it is possible to make a consistent universal price for an item as long as we work out how we still make the same amount of money selling it to all our customers for that same thing. And it's the fear of, I guess, trying to be special to different people. Maybe no rule can apply universally, okay?
Well, it's partly true in the distribution game, and many of our listeners will attest to this because companies offer different levels of service along with the price, and it's the mantra of not just catering to price shoppers alone. So it's a mix of things. It's the product and the service, and again, these things are just going to be established. The winners and losers will be established, and we'll have to watch what happens.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember, we've discussed this like previously, but it used to be that 5, 6 years, 7 years ago, and people were still thinking that the whole idea of selling fasteners on the web was just so crazy it isn't funny. And people used to come up to me in the show, and I'd have my screen there demonstrating stuff like that, and they'd try and set me up, but I sort of got to know what they were doing. But particularly it used to be companies that were trying to find a reason for not using FCH, I could pick them out, and I used to have fun with them. But the classic thing they did was to, do a search for something like a machine screw or something simple. And then they would sort of say, so if I had some of these, then my results would be up here too. And I would say, yeah, that's true. Oh, well, what happens if one of my customers did this search then? Then they would see that they had other people they could buy from. And that was always where they'd say, that's why we can't possibly use the web.
Brian,
well, that's fair. But
it is. Brian, what's interesting about that, markets like FCH have a very good purpose for the commodity part of the business. But entrenchment will do everything in their power to prevent that from happening. I recall, and heck, this is probably 15 years ago, Bill Derry from Field tried to stimulate the NFDA to work on item ID standardization in the fastener industry. And we talked about that. And the problem with that is that it would tender commoditization, which is, dangerous to people that take advantage of the lack of perfect information in capitalism. So there was a lot of pushback on that concept at the time. And yet I also know, Jim Ritz at AIS up in the upper Midwest is a friend of mine, and they've purchased some companies, Great Lakes Fasteners, all fasteners. Now they go by the name All Integrated Solutions. But as he's related to me as they've tried to merge together these different entities. They have situations where they've got 45 different iterations of the same item, but they're just 45 different item IDs. And so the other side of that type of transparency is you can make your operation much more efficient. So there's a place for FCH out there, though, in that commoditization, because the reality is part of the business is going to be that way.
Right. Right, but my comment that people always sort of came back to the same thing, which was, okay, that is true. Someone can do a search and they can see different people they can buy from. But if you have a customer and your customer isn't convinced that doing business with you is the best way of doing business, you've got a problem. It's not Fasteners Clearinghouse. It should be that if your customers are doing business with you because they like it and they feel they're getting value for money. I said the web's not going to fix your problem. Your problem is customer service, if that's your fear.
Yep.
Tim, during your musings there a moment ago, you threw the word or the term capitalism in, and I want to shift gears a little bit here because one of the first times that you and I communicated, it was shortly after an article you had written appeared in American Fastener Journal, and it was part of a series of articles. And it was right after that that I discovered you also do actually some fairly prolific blogging out on LinkedIn, where you have well over 20 articles posted. And so we got to talking about that because we share, I guess, an approach to communicating with the market where we're really speaking to the market about more than just what does our company and product do. We're really revealing a little bit of ourselves, aren't we? I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about that series of articles you wrote in American Fastener Journal. What was the general theme of those?
Well, I guess what I'd say is I am an expressive person, and I derive therapy, if you will, from expression, and I also learn. The best way to learn is to teach, and so American Fastener Journal approached me, asked me to write a couple of articles. I did. My approach was to try to bring themes to the articles that were beyond what I call daily tactical activity in the fastener industry, and try to expose some more strategic type themes for people to consider and to stimulate thought. Ironically, I've gotten a lot of emails from people I don't know, very few emails from people I do know. So it tells me that the people that, I do know, maybe I need to shut up. But it was very enlightening for me, a very good experience. And, I hope that it was a good experience for others as well. But I was just trying to, get people to think a little bit more strategically, in the fastener industry.
Sort of a radical approach because, when the moment you stand up in front of a crowd, and if you're writing something you're subject to a lot of criticism.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to keep your head down. You have to make a choice if you're going to take that approach and you're going to attempt to appear to be all things to all people, or if you're going to take a position on really anything these days. It is a polarized world, and so you run the risk of disagreeing with somebody who doesn't like to be disagreed with. And believe me, with Fully Threaded, over the course of the years, we've dealt with a lot of different issues, and at times we've been more aggressive than at others.
And at times we've been criticized too.
That's true. But I think it was at that point, Tim, that you and I were comparing notes. Actually, offline, you were telling me that you were sending out invitations for people to attend your trade show booth, and at your booth you had adult beverages as one of the perks, and somebody actually provided you some feedback on that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we serve beer and bottled water at our trade show, and so we sent out a promotional piece just this past fall in advance of the Vegas show, and got a gentleman back, basically saying that we were sinful because we were offering beer in Las Vegas, mind you.
Yeah, I know, right.
And so some of that comes with territory. I mean, I'm very thick-skinned. I like to think our company culture here, is very thick-skinned. One of the articles I wrote for the AFJ was an article called Leading with Capitalism. And, in that article, I compare how the economies work in a capitalist versus socialist versus communist type of framework. And, what I find interesting is that capitalism is a very logical framework. And when you argue logically in today's world, what you get in response is emotion and name calling. And And that's an unfortunate dynamic, but it probably just reflects the basis of two different bases out there of how people function in the world. Some people are intellectual and thoughtful, and there's other people that are very emotional, and that might, among other things, cause some of the clashes that exist out there.
Oh, I think that's the sole cause of the clashes that exist out there.
Yeah.
It's 100% true, Tim. And your most recent piece that you published out on LinkedIn is a commentary, and I give you credit for addressing the topic. This was from back on February 16th, shortly after these tragic shootings, or this event, in the school event in Florida. And the title of your piece there is "This Is Us." And you're kind of shrugging your shoulders and addressing some of these facts head on. And I don't know that you're really taking a position necessarily, other than you're identifying with the event, and you're just putting it out there. And my hat's off to you for doing this.
Well, what I would say about the current discussions in and around the Parkland shooting is, at its core, there are two groups of people in this country, in my opinion. There's one group that believes that government is the solution to many things, many ills. And there's another group that believes that government is not necessarily the solution. And, the reality is, as a government, we haven't won a war since 1945. The war on drugs, I would offer, has not been very successful. The war on poverty has not been very successful. We're still at war in Afghanistan, and we killed the objective, I believe, and we're still there. Iran's a mess. Syria's a mess. Vietnam turned out all right, other than it cost us 58,000 of our own patriots. And so at its core, in this whole gun thing, for example, there's a group of people out there that really don't trust government, and they're just not going to give up their guns. The toothpaste is out of the tube. And when they look at that whole Parkland situation, you had a young man, very troubled, reported by many. Some of the things that he did were, in fact, crimes. The Broward County School District had a policy in place to try to reduce the arrests of its students to meet a statistic. The guy gets a gun. He's crazy. He shows up at a school where he's supposed to be expelled. He starts shooting. The sheriff's deputies show up with guns and don't go in. I mean, if that's not a poster of government not working, I don't know what is. Now, having said that, I think it would be perfectly practical to put some limits on guns. And that's where, there's so much emotion around this. And the purpose of my article is just to say, hey, this is us. And what we have is there's a lot of people talking about this, and a lot of the people that are talking, they're screaming for gun control. And then when you say, well, what is it you actually want to do? And they say, well, let's do the bump stops. Let's increase background checks. And that's all good. And I think we probably should do all that. So I'm not like pro or anti gun control, but my point is, it speaks to the inflammatory nature that we have right now, where you have on one side people that believe in government and on the other side people that don't.
Which is exactly why I said a few minutes ago that if you even broach the topic, if it's a remotely sensitive topic, you're sticking your neck out, and you have to have a lot of courage to do it. But nevertheless, that's what you're doing, and I think it's commendable.
We probably have some people canceling orders at G.O. Huyett right now.
Welcome to our world, Tim.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
You're right.
It's the world of predominantly fastener-related talk radio, but I would tell you that I don't think it's true, and if it is true, I think the net effect is that you have a more positive following, and that's exactly what you're doing in all of your writings and your endeavors out here on LinkedIn and AFJ and so forth. So, again, a fellow compatriot in this, because we're doing Fully Threaded for similar reasons, I guess. I mean, we have dual objectives in mind, and that's what we do with every episode. So thank you for what you do.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Did we get too far out of the wheat field on that?
I'm all right. I'm perfectly all right. I try to use my writings and my musings for helping my own personal exploration of my, existence here on Earth. And I feel compelled to try to teach others. it's a question of how effective can someone's influence be. Because sometimes if you come across as preachy all the time, that's not necessarily a good thing. So, it's just a way I learn by writing and teaching. And I've made every mistake in the book, and, I continue the journey, as they say.
Yeah, I like your comment about the fact you learn by teaching. I mean, it's very, very true because, for all the jokes you make about teachers, and especially if you're in Illinois, okay, which you don't have the luck not to be, but the fact is it takes a special sort of person because you have to know your subject really well to be able to teach it. Not everyone can be a good teacher, and some of the smartest people are terrible teachers. But you have to know a subject and know other things about it. It's a very interesting thing.
If you ever look at the 12-step program for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm not enrolled, by the way, but I've studied it because I've talked to people, and stop smoking, stop drinking are among the hardest things that people do in life. The 12th step is to evangelize to others, to teach others. And I think that's very symbolic to, what leaders in organizations can do is, if you can get yourself to be sufficiently humble, such as a 12-step program, and to a place that you're comfortable in disclosure and revelation about yourself, and to let the guard down, if you will, and teach others and be effective at it. I think that's, as a leader, that's something that has served me well. And so, when I do some of this, I think of the 12 steps. So
we're speaking with Tim O'Keefe of GL Huyett. And Tim, for the folks who are not 12-stepping at the moment, they should definitely stop by your booth, right? Are you going to be at the Cleveland show coming up, Fastener Fair USA?
We are. We're going to, for lack of a better word, dip our toe in that water. And so we won't go with like the regular booth that we have. We're going to go with just your regular, pipe and drape type of arrangement, just to kind of see how things go.
Okay.
In other words, you're going to go like a fasteners clearinghouse.
Yeah.
Pipe and drape with the banner hanging over the pipe. Okay.
Yes. We'll have to see if the industry needs, 2 national shows and how that's, going to work out.
So the answer then is that you will be at Fastener Fair USA, and then we'll have to wait until Vegas to really see the kegs stacked up in your booth and head out there for revelry. And if that doesn't float your boat, then there's ample bottled water.
That's exactly right.
Good.
Serving the industry. You're always serving, Tim.
Yeah, I'm sure, Eric, you can bring some vitamin water or something, or some mix, and we can mix that up for you in a bottle if you'd like.
No, I wouldn't like. I'm happy, except I'm usually the one. I was bitching and moaning at Eric all the time because he runs out having his beer from all these people and very rarely brings me back a glass, I have to say. Okay.
Yeah. You're standing in there with the Tootsie Rolls or whatever in the booth, right? That's all you get.
Nothing as fancy as that, no.
Yeah.
A cold cup of coffee.
Hard candies, yep.
Yeah, I better wind this down before it gets really vicious, guys.
Yeah, right. I've got more coming, okay.
Tim O'Keefe, it's been just a pleasure speaking with you, and I have a feeling that we're going to want to have you back on. You're a great conversationalist, and it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us on Fully Threaded Radio.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Once again, check out more of the history and the products from GL Huyett at www.huyett.com. This is Fully Threaded Radio, and we'll be right back.
Talk radio for the fastener industry. It's not really all that bad for the most part. Brian and Eric, Fully Threaded Radio.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. InSequel delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Unlike other software companies, with InSequel, you purchase your software once. There will never be a paid upgrade. If you need assistance with anything, InSequel is there to help. When you call, you will always speak with a real person offering you quick and knowledgeable answers to your questions. Can your current provider say this? Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only InSequel can deliver all three. So why settle? Call InSequel Software at 877-446-9775 or visit www.inxsql.com.
Hello.
Hello.
You've been walking the Fastener Show for a while?
Yes. However, I'm wearing very comfortable shoes.
How would you like some Old Rusty Bolt beer?
I'm not a smart man, but Mama warned me about these things.
Well, that's probably because Mama never tried Old Rusty Bolt. Only the finest beverage in the fastener business.
All right. I'll give it a try. This is pretty good. I'm starting to feel funny. Jenny! Something's happening. Whoa. I feel.
Sum of the square roots of any two sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side.
Old Rusty Bolt, making the fastener world feel smarter, one beer at a time. So how do you feel?
I gotta pay.
I believe he said he had to pee. The preceding message was brought to you by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, proud Fastener Show sponsors of Old Rusty Bolt beer, official beer of the traveling salesman.
You will meet over 2,000 fastener professionals from key manufacturing industries when you attend Fastener Fair USA, North America's only show for the entire fastener supply chain, taking place April 11th and 12th, 2018 in Cleveland, Ohio. Fastener Fair USA attracts manufacturers, distributors, suppliers, and end users from North America's fastest growing industries, such as automotive, aerospace, construction, equipment manufacturers, and many more. More than 200 companies from around the world will exhibit at Fastener Fair USA 2018, showcasing the latest in industrial and construction fasteners, assembly and installation systems, manufacturing technology, and much more. Take advantage of the opportunity to grow your business with our high-level education and training taught by industry experts, including the Fastener Training Institute, who will be participating in the inaugural show, offering product and technical training. Connect with customers and peers on the show floor and after hours at our welcome reception on April 11th at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There is truly something for everyone who's part of the fastener supply chain at Fastener Fair USA. To request information on exhibiting or visiting Fastener Fair USA, go to fastenerfair.com/USA or call show management at 866-899-4728. We'll see you at Fastener Fair USA 2018 in the heart of America's manufacturing region, April 11th and 12th at Huntington Convention Center, Cleveland, Ohio.
This is Gary Plipnick from Fastenal. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Brian and Eric, back with you from the online Fastener Party Bungalow.
Yes, which sort of started more as a party shed, actually. Or a party room in your condo, actually.
Yes, humble beginnings. Kind of a theme to the show, theme to the fastener industry, really. Hey everybody, the liner coming into this segment this time was the voice of Gary Plipnick of Fastenal. And I was glad we got to stick that in because it might be the last time. Gary Plipnick retiring from Fastenal after 30-some years. We're going to be heading up there to his party later in the month, Brian. Just like to give Gary a big salute. He helped us out quite a bit working with Fastenal back in our early days, and that sure was a fortuitous meeting.
Yeah, actually, it was sort of interesting because we were a little bit nervous about meeting this guy up in Madison, and he sort of was interesting. We didn't know quite what we were going to expect, but he turned out to have a set of very interesting comments and posed some issues that, the branches in Fastenal were dealing with and how he had come to think that we might be able to help them. And, we've kept in touch and, we developed some different part of our software actually based on some comments that Gary made about the fact that there's no uniformity in how people define washers. Sometimes it's inside diameter first, sometimes it's outside. And so we developed extensions to our own software so that we could recognize the bolt diameter that goes with a washer. That was all based on early discussions with Gary. We've had a long it's been a very good connection to Fastenal for us. Actually.
Yeah, it really has. You put a lot of work into that washer interface.
Yeah. No one would know it now, but it was a lot of work went into it, okay? It's just hiding under everything that people use.
Such is the nature of software development. All these technical unsung heroes out there. Well, turning now to our conversation with Tim O'Keefe, kind of wraps the whole podcast up because after we recorded with him, he published a statement, or actually another one of his columns, I guess we'll call it, out there on LinkedIn that touched on what we were talking to Charlie Kerr about the tariffs, Bri.
Mm-hmm.
The title of this piece was Trump Tariffs and the Potential Effects on the Fastener Industry. And I highly advise anyone who enjoyed that conversation with Tim or the conversation with Charlie Kerr to get out there and read this because it's just very, very interesting. Read the comments as well. I saw a few people commented, including Hans Fuller of Fuller Metric.
Yeah.
I think people are really kind of reacting the way that you would expect to the tariffs. And there's a lot of detail in this piece, detail that we didn't get into really with Charlie, including some expanded information on this Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, which we briefly referred to during Charlie's segment. That's expanded on in Tim's piece.
Yeah, it's sort of complex and it's hard to think your way through it because you can think your way through the whole thing in a simple path, like the whole thing with the tin cans. Okay, I mean the cost of aluminum in aluminum cans has got to be pretty minor. So if you add 10% on that, well, so it's only a quarter of a cent or something. However, it's all the other effects that you'd forget. Some of those Charlie brought up, actually quite a lot of them he did, okay?
Well, there's a lot to wrestle with this tariff issue, and I tell you, I see all the sides of it, and I really would like to know what the Trump administration truly is doing. I guess we're going to stay with this one, and, well, we all have a front row seat to see what in fact does happen.
Yeah. I mean, from the simplistic point of view in terms of how's the world developed, you'd have to say tariffs shouldn't exist, okay? Except in secret little ways, they always have. They're just hidden under government regulations.
I'd like to thank Tim O'Keefe with GL Huyett for joining us on the podcast today. There's a lot to that tariff story and a lot to his story with GL Huyett. He's taken it a long way, as previously mentioned, from a shed in a wheat field.
Right, and, I'm never going to be able to think about a group of people sitting under trees sipping on their hooch, okay, threading bushings on wires. That is such a great... Oh, that is so great.
Those were the old days, Bri. Charlie Kerr of Kerr Lakeside was our other featured guest on today's episode. Mike McNulty had the Fastener News Report. He was joined by Bob Baer of Abbott Interfast to talk about the FDI numbers. Jessica Boweak gave us the lowdown on Fastener Fair USA, and Carmen Vertullo had the Fastener Training Minute featuring his latest on torque wrenches, torque wrench etiquette. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stelfast, for service you deserve and people you trust. It's Stelfast, and Lindstrom. Lindstrom, by any measure. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, Fastenal, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, Mack Brooks, Fastener Fair USA, ND Industries, The Worth Group, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. Please reach out, communicate with us anytime, folks. We'd love to hear your comments, questions, and input. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. If you want to talk to us in a little more public way, you can use Twitter. Out there, the handle's Fully Threaded.
Right, I just want to remind you that when you're struggling to get all these bits put together and publish them, that I'll be pretending to be my best Englishman, forging my way through some tropical rainforest. Khakis, Empire Builder hat, okay, swatting away natives and mosquitoes, okay, and with my best British accent. Okay? I'm practicing that already.
You really get around, man. All in the pursuit of industrial fastener wisdom too. So I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
And I'm grateful. So you get down there, have some fun, and come back safe, will you?
Yeah, I will.
And we hope that all of you will come back, folks, for episode 127 of the podcast. We're going to work real hard to make sure it's just as interesting and jam-packed as this one has been. And we thank you so much for tuning in.
Right.
That's going to put this episode of Fully Threaded Radio in the can, everyone. And until next time, for Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
Lots of fun in the meantime, okay?
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fasteners Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
Everybody, there's an update to the tariff story. This from our roving correspondent Brian Musker down in Costa Rica at the NFDA meeting, where apparently it's pretty widely felt that the tariffs as they have been defined or described to us are a bad idea for the fastener industry. Apparently, the Industrial Fasteners Institute chairman Phil Johnson addressed the meeting, and he pointed out how the tariffs didn't work under George Bush, and they were reversed shortly after going into effect. They're speculating that might happen again this time. For those of you who have a subscription to Global Fastener News, there's a story out there. I can't read it because they yanked my comp subscription, but if you're a reader, get out there to see that. I'm sure a lot more will be coming down, but it looks like people are just not real happy with this thing so far. And I'm sure we'll know a lot more by the next episode. Hope to have you all aboard then.
Anyone?